Good day everyone, let us continue our discussion with the second unit, which is the basic knowledge and skills in civil technology. What is civil technology? Civil technology is the field of drafting, cartography, traffic technology, and the analysis of construction materials to support construction, engineering, and architecture for roads, bridges, and other public structures. It focuses on concepts and principles in the built environment and on the technological process. It embraces practical skills and the application of scientific principles. This subject aims to create and improve the built environment to enhance the quality of life of the individual and society, and to ensure the sustainable use of the natural environment. Also, according to Dr. Eufemio P. Valdez in 2001, civil technology is an attempt to introduce the neglected instruction in this field of technology to our youth. Thus, in this unit, you can be experienced as a liberating force that is directed towards the development of your true potential with the basic knowledge and skills in civil technology. A civil technology material is any material used in the construction industry. And here are some of the most common types of materials used in civil technology applications on or in construction projects are traditional, mortar, concrete, and metal. First is traditional. These features include large open porches with overhanging beams and rafters, dormers, and tall-pointed roof with one or more gables. These use traditional building materials such as brick, wood, plaster, stucco, and stone. Mortar is a workable paste which dries to bind building blocks such as stones, bricks, and concrete masonry units to fill and seal the irregular gaps between them. While mortar has a lower strength than concrete, it has the ability to retain water and it has a high air content. Concrete is an artificial stone as a result of making cement, fine aggregate, and water. It is a composite material composed of fine and coarse aggregate, bonded together with a fluid cement or cement phase that hardens, cures over time. It is an important building product. Concrete is chosen over wood as a construction material because of its durability and cost effectivity. Material which is necessity for underground use. Concrete is a sustainable choice for residential and commercial projects, and the strength of concrete increases over time. The last one is a material that, when freshly prepared, polished, or fractured, shows a luster appearance and conduct electricity and heat relatively well, known as metal. Metal buildings are rarely seen in the devastation because they hold up much better than their wooden counterparts. That is why, for years now, architects, building owners, designers, and general contractors are choosing metal for their projects over other materials because of its durability, efficiency, and low maintenance. And steel is the most popular one, most widely used metal in construction industry. It's also the most recycled material on the planet, making it a very eco-friendly option for construction. People in the construction industry love steel because it can produce extremely sustainable structures that can be built quickly at low prices. Proper tools and equipment are essential for the effective operation of a civil work site. Equipping the construction site with the correct tools and equipment plays an essential role in achieving timely and goodly results. For every construction activity, there is an optimal combination of tools, equipment, and labor. Depending on the nature and content of the works, the technical staff needs to know which tools to use and how to effectively combine them with manual labor. And here are some of the most used tools and equipment in civil technology: woodworking saw, edge cutting tools, driving tools, boring tools, measuring tools, welding tools, and power tools. Saws or tooth-cutting tools are main tools for a carpenter. It is a tool consisting of a tough blade, wire or chain with a hard, tough edge. It is used to cut through material, very often wood, though sometimes metal or stone. A handsaw is a fundamental tool you can find in every workshop and toolbox. Whether you are a professional woodworker, expert carpenter, or DIY home repair enthusiast, because different handsaws perform various cuts on a multitude of materials. You want to search for the tool that matches your specific task. Here are some of the most common handsaw used in civil technology. Cross-cut saw. It is used to cut across the grain or fiber of the wood. The teeth are like knife point. They act like two rows of knife points and root out the sawdust between the cuts. A carpenter usually selects a 7 to 8 cross-cut saw. Back saw is a cross-cut saw with a thin blade and fine teeth. A heavy piece of steel is fitted on the back, hence the name back saw. Such a steel is fitted to prevent the blade from buckling or bending. Keyhole saw is a compass saw with a similar and finer blade. It is used to cut curved or straight-sided holes. Coping saw is a very small turning saw held in a metal frame. It is used to cut irregular shapes and intricately curved patterns in thin wood, plywood, or lawanit. Hacksaw, a fine-toothed, was used to cut hard objects such as hardwoods and metal, pipes and other made of metal. Scan the quick response code to learn more on the use of different saws in civil technology. Edge cutting tools. These tools wherein the sharp edge or the cutting side of the blade is used for cutting, like the chisel, plane, spoke shape, and scraper. Furthermore, where are the tips and edges of cutting and piercing tools made of sharp? Cutting and piercing tools are made of sharp because the area of contact reduced, so the pressure increase and cutting become easily. Edge cutting tools comes into different variety. First is chisel. This is a very important tool in the construction of most joints made by hand. Wood chisels may be divided into two general classes: socket firmer chisel and tank firmer chisel, a tool used to trim and shape wood. Plane is a very useful woodworking tool. After measuring and sawing the raw piece of lumber, planing follows. The size and form of material require the right type of plane needed to smoothen the job. Scraper. It is a tool suitable for smoothing curves and shaping edges of a board. The cutting blade is sharpened like a plain iron. Spoke shape. This is used for the final smoothing before sandpapering. It removes the slight ridges with a plane. It is also used to smoothen surfaces that are difficult to plane because of curly or irregular grain. Scan the quick response code to learn more on the use of different edge cutting tools in civil technology. The majority of woodworking projects require you to connect pieces of wood together. That's why we have these, the driving tools. Driving tools are steel tools that are used to mount, restore, and maintain a wide range of structure. Glue and interlocking wood joints may be used to connect these parts. However, these are often redundant, necessitating the use of nails, panel, pins, wedges, pegs, or screws. Different types of driving tools such as hammer, screwdriver, and mallet are needed for this task. A variety of steel tools are used to mount, restore, and maintain driving tools. Here are some of the most common driving tools. Claw hammer. is generally used for heavy work. The face is used for hammering of striking the nail. The opposite end of the head forms a curved claw which is used for pulling out old or poorly driven nail. Mallet is a kind of hammer often made of rubber or sometimes wood that is smaller than a mole or beetle and usually has a relatively large head. The term is descriptive of the overall size and proportions of the tool and not the materials it may be made of, though most mallets have striking faces that are softer than steel. A screwdriver is a tool that is used for turning screws. It consisting of a metal rod with a flat or cross shape and fits into the top of the screw. Scan the quick response code to learn more on the use of different driving tools in civil technology. In woodworking, boring is the process of making a hole on a piece of wood. Drilling is the term used in metalwork. Woodworkers use bits, bradawl, counter silk, and chisel for boring holes. Holes are bored in the wood to fit screws, bolts, dowels, internal sewing design, and for other purposes. Boring tools has different types. First is the drill bit. It is designed and tempered for drilling holes in metal. It may also be used in repair work where contact of nails or metal is possible. The drill bit used in metal has a round shank, while the one used in woodworking has a square shank. They are sized by the 32nd of each. Auger bit is a screw-shaped tool consisting of the twist, shank, and tab. The common sizes of auger bit range from 0.67 to 2.54 cm. The length is 12.7 cm to 25.4 cm in overall. Gimlet bit is used in boring holes of small diameters. It serves as a guide hole in inserting screws in hardwood. The cutting edge is on the side so it cannot be resharpened. Scan the quick response code to learn more on the use of different boring tools in civil technology. Measuring tools. Measuring tools are sensitive instruments of surface, hardened, still provided with scales of different degree of accuracy. Simple measuring tools are mainly used in single part production and maintenance work. When compiling tools for a workshop, measuring tools are always an afterthought, but they shouldn't be. You just take a minor measurement error to derail an entire project. Invest in high quality measurement and lay out instrument that will last for years and remain reliable. Here are some of the most common used measuring tools. Measuring tape. A flexible tape that slides into a material case and is used to measure irregular and regular shapes. Caliper measures the distance between two opposite sides of an object. Calipers are meant for measuring thickness and internal or external diameters, inaccessible to a scale. Tri-square is mainly used to check a workpiece is a square. That is, two sides are of 90 degrees to one another. Level is a device that helps you to know how to level a surface. It is particularly useful while installing cabinets, counters, and tables. The bubble in the tube of liquid, usually known as a spirit, needs to be in the center to indicate a level surface. And plumb bob, used to ensure that the vertical reference for a structure is perpendicular to the surface. Scan the quick response code to learn more on the use of different measuring tools in civil technology. Every carpenter needs a solid bench or table of hardwood on which he can carry out carpentry operations. Whenever you are going to purchase a workbench, make sure it is equipped with a vise for holding the work and with slots and holes for keeping the common hand tools. Holding tools are tools used for holding pieces of work, bladed tools, and for clamping of wood to be glued. Some of the most common used holding tools. C-clamp is named after its shape. It consists of an iron frame of letter C and a steel screw with a swivel tip. It is used for holding pieces of wood to be glued and nailed. C-clamp is also used in fastening wood on top of the bench while working on it. Vise is a versatile tool that holds a piece of wood being worked on. This is usually attached to one end of the workbench. Bench hook. This is a rectangular piece of plank with a piece of wood nailed beneath for hooking on top of a bench and another for taking the thrust of saw or plane. It is used to support while sawing and planing small objects. It is also used as protection while chopping on top of the bench. Brace. This is a tool used to hold a bit firmly while boring a hole. It holds all kinds of bits, while a square tank or shank that can be inserted into the jaws. Scan the quick response code to learn more on the use of different saws and civil technology. Power tools. Power tool is any tool that uses an external power source to drive it, rather than the manual effort of the operator, as in the case with a hand tool. This power can come from a number of sources, but most typically in a home improvement environment, it will be electricity. Some of the most common used power tools. Power sander is a basic power tool, but it does more than smooth a tabletop or the side of a bookshelf. You can use it to abrade a painted surface so that the next coat of paint adheres more firmly. The power jigsaw or scroll saw does mechanically the same irregular cut as the hand coping saw. The straight narrow blade is mounted vertically between a pulsating lower shaft and a reciprocating upper shaft, which together move the blade rapidly up and down. The portable electric circular saw, with a blade attached to a motor shaft, is probably the most commonly used saw, particularly by home handymen. With a proper blade, it can cut almost any material: wood, metals, plastics, fiberglass, cement block, slate, and a brick. Electric drill, used primarily for boring holes in nearly all materials. The electric drill can also be used for a variety of other tasks, facilitated by a number of accessories and attachments. This includes sanding, screw driving, grinding, and mixing paint, to name a few. Scan the quick response code to learn more on the use of different power tools in civil technology. After identifying and learning the use of different materials, tools, and equipment in civil technology, let us now proceed to the introduction to building construction. As an everyday plan, it originated from an idea of owner and finally drawn by the architect or engineer who has the skill in the use of lines and symbols to produce the project as visualized. This architectural work, the general framework of a house and its various parts from the foundation to the roof, framing plan. It shows how the building look like, as seen from all sides, including the perspective view where you can see the actual look of the building when completed. The parts of a house are built according to the design of the plan, which describes the size and grade of materials, method of construction, and competence of those who will build it, and efficiency of equipment. Houses are built for people to live in. They provide shelter and keep their occupants safe. They range from nipa huts and bungalows to high-rise condominium, and the basic parts of the house are composed of foundation, columns, walls, beams, floor, roof, and ceiling. Foundation, the part of a house underground which is made of concrete to support the weight of the building. It serves three main purposes. Firstly, the foundation bears the weight of the entire house, transferring the force through the ground beneath. For this reason, most foundations are made of concrete and dug into the earth for added stability. Secondly, Your foundation easily holds your house in place, acting as an anchor between the frame, the wall, ceiling, etc., and the ground below. In the event of natural disasters such as earthquakes, hurricanes, and tsunamis, or more routine adverse weather conditions such as floods, wind, and frost, your foundation stops your home from being washed or blown away. Finally, a well-laid foundation can help waterproof your property and prevent groundwater from rising into lower reaches of your home. Column is a vertical structural member that carry loads mainly in compression. It may transfer loads from ceiling, floor, slab, roof slab, or from beam to a floor or foundations. The floor and the column on the floor above is supported by columns. The columns of the bottom floor must be large enough to bear the accumulative weight of each floor above it. They can move loads to the foundations and soil below from the slab and beams. Walls, a structural element used to divide or enclose in building construction to form the periphery of a room or building. The purposes of walls in buildings are to support roofs, floors, and ceilings, to enclose a space as part of the building envelope, along with the roof to give buildings form, and to provide shelter and security. In addition, the wall may use or house various types of utilities such as electrical wiring or plumbing. Of course, house walls are not strictly utilitarian. They are also the fundamental elements of the look and feel of a home's interior, providing the canvas for color, texture, and artwork. Beams support the weight of a building's floors, ceilings, and roofs, and to move the load to the framework of a vertical load-bearing element. In order to withstand the combination weight of stacked walls and transfer the support load of the large and heavier beams called transfer beams are used. Floor is the lower horizontal surface of any space in a building, including finishes that are laid as a part of the permanent construction. A floor typically provides structural support for the contents of the room. It occupies the weight of the floor itself, resistance to the passage of moisture, heat, and sound. A surface finish which may contribute to the look, feel, and acoustic of a space. Roof is the top covering of a building, including all materials and constructions necessary to support it on the walls of the building or on the uprights, providing protection against rain, snow, sunlight, extremes of temperature, and wind. Its primary purpose is generally to provide protection from the elements, but it may also contribute to safety, security, privacy, insulation, and so on. Ceiling, a part of a building which encloses an exposed overhead in a room, protected shaft or circulation space. It helps us to create an enclosure and separation between spaces. They provide perfect lighting in the room by controlling diffusion of light and sound around the room, and help prevent the passage of sound between rooms. They have fire-resistant properties and may also accommodate building services such as vents, lighting, sprinkler heads, and so on, as well as being able to conceal other services such as ducts, pipes, and wiring. Here is how to construct a building.
12 steps of construction. Once the construction drawings and other related documents have been completed and approved by the authority in jurisdiction, the project will then be awarded to a contractor by the client through a consultant. In this period, the construction of the proposed project will begin. Construction can be summarized into 12 stages. 1. Clearing of the ground. To begin the actual construction, the clearing of the ground from where the location of the project will be built is the first thing to consider. The construction personnel task is to free the construction site for any obstruction and debris that may obstruct and delay the construction. The temporary facilities such as engineer's office, labor's quarter, material storage room, temporary water, and electric supplies and other related facilities should also be constructed prior to the start of work. A site perimeter fence should also be constructed during this period. 2. Site layout and staking. This activity involves the setting of the reference points in a form of construction grid lines and marking off the gate level. This is performed to ensure that the grids have been set up on site according to approved plans. The reference point should be marked properly and should not be disturbed throughout the course of the construction. Grid lines according to the approved drawing should be laid out prior to construction. Depending on the complexity and size of the project, the construction grids can be laid out through the use of theodolite or related surveying instruments. A more traditional way of the layout of the construction grid is popular to use for small projects is through staking using batter board and strings. Batter board are temporary wooden frames used to suspend the strings. The strings are the representation of the grid lines at X and Y directions according to approved plans. These will serve as a guide throughout the construction, so it is important to fix a reference line in both directions to be used once the grids have been placed when needed in the construction. 3. Excavation. Once the layouts of construction points and grid lines have been completed, the excavation works begin. The excavation depth depends on the recommendation by the Soil Investigation Report. But it is safe to say that the minimum excavation level for the footing to rest should stick to 1 meter below the gate level or the 0.00 level. Excavation works is a massive activity, therefore a proper caution should be observed during this stage. In the event that the excavation needed is along with the neighbor's existing structure exceeding 1.20 meter from your proposed level, then shoring support is recommended. 4. Compacting and laying of PCC. Compacting of the excavated surface should perform once we reach the desired excavation level. A layer of crushed gravel is then to be added during the compacting. In a standard compaction procedure, the final compacted layer should be checked in order to reach the desired degree of compaction to not less than 95% of the maximum dry density. It is then in this stage that an anti-termite treatment on the ground should also be considered. The laying of PCC or plain concrete cement should follow afterward in preparation for rebar works. PCC is usually composed of a 10 mm thick lean concrete for the footing rebar to be laid evenly leveled. 5. Foundation rebar and column starter bars. Once the laying of PCC has been set up, the rebar works for foundation and any foundation beams are the next activity. In this stage, the reinforcement of foundations is being prepared according to the structural schedule along with its formworks. The proper and standard concrete cover should be observed during this procedure. Starter bars for columns should also be installed accordingly before concrete pouring. 6. Concreting of foundations and column rebar installation. Concreting of foundations has to come next after the rebar works. The concrete to be poured should be properly vibrated for the concrete, especially the aggregates, to fully spread into the footing. Installation of column reinforcement on the previously installed column starter bars should be continued. A proper concrete cover should consider before closing the formworks. For substructure columns, an additional concrete cover of at least 50 mm has to be considered up to plinth level to protect the rebar for possible corrosion due to sulfate attack. 7. Concreting of column and bitumen paint applications. Once the concreting of stub columns has been completed, give time for the concrete to dry completely and apply at least 2 coats of bitumen paint for both footing and stub columns. Bitumen paint helps in absorbing moisture due to the soil to prevent seepage into the substructure concrete. 8. Setting up perimeter blocks. Install solid blocks along the perimeter or the edge of the proposed project. This is to establish a boundary between the inside and outside edges of the project. It is also helpful when the difference of inside floor finish level to outside pavement or ground level is significant. 2 coats of bitumen paints should also apply afterward. In some cases, perimeter blocks are optional, especially for areas where the soil characteristics are too firm. 9. Backfilling and compacting. Once the substructures like foundation structures including the solid blocks have been installed completed, backfilling and compacting should take place. Backfilling and compacting should be done partially to make sure that the required degree of compacting has been met until reaching the bottom of the tie beam level. 10. Tie beam reinforcement, grade slab, and concreting. Preparation and installing the tie beam reinforcement as per the approved drawing is the next step to consider after the backfilling and compacting. Formworks with standard concrete cover are also included in this stage. Once the reinforcement works have been completed, we can start the concreting. Installing of grade slab mesh and concrete work is then to be followed. 11. rebar works and concreting of columns. At this stage, the substructure component of our project has been completed. It is now time for the project to go up. The next thing to consider is the rebar works, shuttering or formworks and concreting to be done. Prior to concreting, we see to it that the columns followed the structural schedule. The formworks should be vertically level and a standard concrete cover has to maintain prior to the closing of forms. 12. Beam and slab works. Once the ground floor columns have been cast, it is time to prepare the project for beams and suspended slab reinforcement activity. Like any other structural members, beams and slab reinforcement should be followed strictly. Shuttering or formworks for slab and beams should be properly anchored and checked prior to concrete pouring. Step 11 can be repeated accordingly until such time that the structural frame or the core and shell of the structure has been completed. The architectural finishing works are then be followed.
That concludes our second unit, and see you in the next chapter of this MOC. Again, I'm Sir Jermil R. Angeles, your PLE buddy. Thank you.